Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live postgame show presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Scott Geirman. An early postgame show, but not a fun one necessarily. The Dodgers lose today, Scott, 1-0 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's right, 1-0. If somehow you missed this game and didn't realize it was on that early, you missed literally nothing. Tyler Glasnow was good. The offense was very, very bad. Scott, when you think about this one, there's lots of ways, lots of places we could go here. Left on base, 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position, bottom of the lineup. Take it any direction you want.
Just a very concerning loss all around. Like this is a team that's, I don't know, hopefully this isn't a bigger headline than it is, but this is a Dodgers team that when you look at what their record is, but you actually watch a ball game and how they win sometimes, you could completely say this is a smoke and mirrors lineup at the moment. It's a team that's being absolutely carried by their starting pitching, relief pitching, guys who we said, oh, they're going to get DFA'd in no time or are coming up big. Like they're actually, carrying the club. It's an offense that we came into the year saying they're just going to steamroll everybody. And little did we know, we found out, about a month in, about what's going on here. 0 for 12 today, lot to talk about there. More of the same, but it's just a very concerning loss just because it feels like there's so many holes. And for a team of this caliber, can't be this way.
Yeah. It's an interesting, you look through the box score again, I mentioned it. They leave 9 guys on base. Excuse me. They go 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. But even the 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position sort of, you can dig into that a little bit more. Number 8 hitter Miguel Rojas, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Number 9 hitter Chris Taylor, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Teoscar Hernandez, also 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. And then Mookie, Pages, and Lux, all 0 for 1. So this was a game, Scott, that from the jump, they had runners on second and third in the first, get nothing. They have a leadoff walk and stolen base in the second, get nothing. They have a leadoff walk in the third, double play. Then a double hit by pitch, they get nothing. Fourth, another leadoff walk moved over to second and third, and then get nothing. So even in the first 4 innings, they put a runner, at least one runner in scoring position in every single one of those. They have the leadoff guy get on in the second, third, and fourth inning, and yet nothing comes of it. And there's a part of it that you look at the bottom of the lineup, Scott, and it's easy to point to, and we could talk about that first. But yeah. I do want to say that this was sort of a group effort. Teoscar Hernandez is a guy that was 0 for 3 tonight, and he deserves way more of a benefit of the doubt than a guy like Chris Taylor does. But the bottom, group of this lineup, Jason Hayward, I guess, drew 2 walks and was 0 for 1, so can't really complain about him. But Lux gets a double, otherwise he's 0 for 3. Rojas 0 for 4, Taylor 0 for 4. I know people like Miguel Rojas, but I don't know about you, Scott. I had no confidence in any times he came up with runners in scoring position today.
I mean, he's just a bat to ball guy at this point. He's not a slugging dude. He's going to go up there and he's going to do his best. Like you notice, he didn't have a strikeout today. Like he's going to go up there and hopefully give a quality at bat. And the most you can ask is to put the ball in play, not a waste it out. And that's the most you're going to get out of him. Like if he's, when he's not, slapping a base hits, poking one in the gap, putting one down the line, legging out a double. That's what you're going to get. Hopefully not a strikeout, but asking Miguel Rojas to go up there, deposit one somewhere. It's a tall order, but it's when the top of the order is not doing what they need to do, not coming through. That's when the rest of the order just looks so much more garbage than, it might be. It's just more of the same for the lower third, man. Like this is a team, like I wrote an article about what Andrew Friedman is going to be looking for at the deadline. And this is the 3rd worst group in the National League. It's the 5th worst group in all of baseball in terms of, let me pull it up. It's,
this is the bottom of the order you're talking
Rojas,
about.
Pages, Hayward, Kike, Gavin Lux, Outman, Austin Barnes, and Chris Taylor. They're one of the worst collections in all of baseball. And that's just, for a team, that's a concerning depth issue. So it's something that, you can do it with a few pieces, maybe 2. And then from there, the load on those other players gets less and less, but it's just difficult when Dave has to keep putting these guys out there, hopefully to get some run and you find a rhythm. And Chris Taylor's up there trying to put a charge in one at the end of the game. And I was sitting there like, man, how can he be up there? And, he almost got one and put it out. But the point is, it's, he's 0 for 4 in the night. It's just more of the same for it.
Yeah. Does Teoscar Hernandez, I mean, I know he's had a better season on the whole, But if you're talking about a guy coming up with runners in scoring position, he's got a 318 on base percentage this season. So he's just like, I know the average is 250. The slug is there, but he's one of these guys that when Freddie Freeman and Will Smith are getting on in front of him, there's not a lot of base hit in that bat. Like there's some extra base hit potential. He had the ball that he hits to left center field that Steven Nelson thought was out, that Aroldis Chapman thought that was out, that Teoscar Hernandez thought was out, that dies in left center field, a place that, I think I've seen people saying his and Taylor's balls are probably out in like 90% of ballparks. But I think when you look at him and then Jason Hayward, who walked twice, so he probably deserves a pass for tonight. But, outside of that top four, which look, the top four had 4 hits in 15 at bats with a pair of walks. So, I mean, they reached base 6 times in 17 at bats. You're not really complaining about that group and their ability to make things happen. It's the 5 through 9 that was just embarrassing tonight.
Yeah, no, man, I agree. Like it's a thing that we all have to take a step back and really look at it. This lineup has some considerable holes. We can say it until we're blue in the face that yes, they have a lead in the division, but this is entirely on the starting rotation, entirely on the bullpen, keeping them in these games. Tyler Glasnow, I saw people toss it in the chat a bunch. I think David Vassay tweeted out, this is the 5th start in a row that Tyler Glasnow has received not one run, not one. It's just, it's absurd. It's embarrassing. Like this is a roster that you cannot have. Mike, same thing, man. You can't have this many waste of space, spots in the order. You can't have 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4. It can't be going straight down. But to your point about Teoscar, that's a spot in the lineup. Max, we sorely miss Max Muncy. Yeah. But again, it's just, you can't, like you look at the Milwaukee Brewers, like I know I, talk about them a bunch, but it's that they have so many role players. Their 7 through 9 is the best unit in all of baseball. I think they have a combined coming into today was like a 120 plus WRC plus for their lower third in the order, whoever slots in. Yeah. And that's something where, why is this an organization that they just came into the year and it just feels like it's not neglected it because it's just collective, down run of play. Yeah. But how did this happen? How did we get to a point where we have 4 or 5 guys that nothing's clicking? Yeah,
but I mean, I guess the only pushback I would offer is this is a team that's 3rd in the National League in runs scored. So to say that this is entirely victories based off of pitching, based off of starters and bullpen, I think it feels like that's the right thing to say after a game they've lost 1-0. It feels like the right thing to say after the last 2 weeks. I think they've scored 4 or fewer runs in like now 10 out of 12 games or something like that. If you count, in the first 9 innings, not including that extra inning game where they scored 3 runs in the top of the 10th. But I guess I'm posing the question of, is it possible we're just overreacting to a stretch of 2 weeks of baseball that are bad? Because before that, this was basically the best offense in baseball for the entirety of the season.
We're getting a lot of care early on in the year was Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani going absolutely insane. Freddie Freeman wasn't playing, we're seeing a better version of Freddie Freeman lately, but runs scored is not a stat that you have to look at runs per game. And like, we have to look in samples. You have to look at the last month. Like this unit has not been terrific from May 1st on. Since May 1st, they've been coming into today. You can see even worse now is with runners in scoring position, with runners on base. They're a bottom 10 unit, bottom 12 unit in the league. It's not getting it done. This is something that's not getting it done. If you want a counting stat of like runs scored on the year, that's all that looks good. But I'd like to know, like that's why that article and that rumor from Nightingale came out that they're definitely going to approach the offense because they have to. This is not a current unit. This is not a doomsday thing, but as it stands, I don't see it being enough to really, forge on and saying, yeah, 2 or 3 of these guys are going to turn it around and figure it out, that they're going to find the hitter qualities to be, a force at the bottom of the order. It's just that once you get past, everybody sees it. Once you get past those top 5 without Muncy there, it's crapshoot.
So, I mean, what needs to change? Like Muncy comes back, you're looking at a list of guys, Teoscar Hernandez, Jason Hayward, Andy Pages, Gavin Lux, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, Miguel Vargas. Like, in your estimation, given what we've seen over the last few weeks, given over what we've seen over the last month and a half, to go back to May 1st to use your numbers, like, I mean, how many of these guys do you feel like there's a reasonable chance we'll get back to a level that I think was fair at the beginning of the season to expect? Like, we're not expecting Chris Taylor and Gavin Lux and Kike Hernandez. We're not expecting these guys to be all-stars, but I think it was reasonable for some of those guys know. Like if people wanted to crap on Gavin Lux coming off of his knee, fine. Jason Hayward, there's some holes that you could poke there. Chris Taylor has struggled off and on for a while. Miguel Rojas, not expecting much. I'm just saying, like, there was enough guys in Outman, in Hayward, in Miguel Vargas, in some of these pieces, Andy Pages, that it feels like, is it unreasonable to think that one or two of those guys is going to turn it around?
I would say one.
Okay.
One. And I don't that's not enough. Like that, the deadline, I think this is a team that needs, you need two bats.
Without, and to be fair, I've been the one that's saying they need an outfielder the entire time. So I'm not saying they're going to be fine. It feels like we're maybe pressing the overreaction button a tad just based on a 2-week sample size after we saw a 2-month sample size that was telling the opposite story.
I mean, I don't think any of these guys, Rojas is just who he is. He's going to provide elite defense. He's going to be bad.
It's going to get worse. Rojas is going to get worse.
That's fine. I just want him to not strike out. I want him to go up there and be a productive at bat. His upside is, I think it's a higher upside, with the glove than Gavin Lux is going to provide at shortstop. So it's just a different conversation. But in terms of having to deal with Chris Taylor, Andy Pye is working through his stuff. He's a free swinger right now, so you have no idea what you're getting. Kike Hernandez has been terrible. James Outman's raking, but in AAA, so you have no clue what he's doing there. It's just, I feel like June 4th is a spot where you can say, it's not working out with this many role players. Like I said, I could say one, Andy Pye is sure, like he's doing well against lefties, but I want, what are they doing? No, he's been slumping. I don't care what he's been doing on the whole season since he was, getting worse. How is he getting better?
Pages has 9 hits in his last 4 games.
Yeah. So if you want to ask me one, so it's just a problem of position versatility. Like Miguel Vargas has been up here, but it just feels like, why are they giving Chris Taylor 4 at bats? He's not doing a thing. Yeah, like this might be, I know a lot of people and we're on the same page on it. And I'm just trying to articulate the best that I can that I have never seen this, collection of, down play with a bench with guys that they just have to start because that's who they have to play. It's just, I need 2 bats at the deadline. You need at least one person to get back. You need James Outman to come up if he's going to still be with the team by the deadline, and to be something. And to provide some upside, they really do need that. Like, otherwise, it's not a doomsday thing. Like, it's a concerning thing that you can't function with an offense that drops off after your top 5 guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it goes to 6. I mean, and I think Teoscar has been a little bit of a roller coaster this season. As far as he comes out, he's like, look, this guy's one of the top 3 or 5 guys in RBIs. And then by the time you get to this point, again, it's a 310 on base percentage, which is basically the same on base percentage you're getting from Jason Hayward. And nobody's fired up about Hayward. You got the slug with Teoscar. So I think if you get Muncy in there, you get Teoscar. But even then, you're banking on those top 6 guys being healthy, and Will Smith's not going to play every day. So,
and I think you agree. Yeah, real quick. So, but while you're on this, I think I think you and I agree on this. It's that, and I've spoke with a bunch, is that everybody in chat agrees. It's way too many of the same hitter profile. It's just too much whiff, not enough bat to ball, not working deep counts. Like Pye can do it at times, but he's up there battling. It's not that he's up there swinging, fouling stuff, swinging stuff out, 6 inches out of the zone. It's a tough watch sometimes because you're like, if you just had a little bit better zone awareness, you'd get on base at a higher clip. It's a difficult thing. And it just feels like there's so many holes to plug. It's just difficult when Chris Taylor's right now, free swinger, tons of whiff. Gavin Lux, a lot of whiff. When he hits it, it's not going far. Just like you saw tonight, he had a leg out a double. He just slapped it the other way. It's just a lot of the same. Kike Hernandez, same stuff. I've never seen this deep of the same hitter profile when no one's got it clicking.
Yeah, and I would say, I actually think Gavin Lux is a different hitter profile. I mean, he's a 70th percentile in whiff rate on the season. So he's more of the quote unquote, doesn't expand the zone. He's got an elite chase rate. It's the only thing he's got. The problem is he's just been really bad. Miguel Rojas is bat to ball. He goes 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. So it's kind of like, you pick your poison, and sometimes it doesn't really matter. Both of those guys have a down night in the same night. And again, to your point, I don't think at this point in the season, nobody's surprised when you put Lux, Rojas, and Taylor as your 7, 8, 9 guys, that those guys are going to give you an 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. That's not surprising. I think if you told me at the beginning of the year that all 3 of those guys, and again, Rojas is unfair. He's exceeded expectations. But if you told me at the beginning of the season, Outman's going to be a bust, Taylor's going to be atrocious, Kike's going to be atrocious, Lux is going to be atrocious, I wouldn't say any of those was like, oh my gosh, that's the most shocking thing. But I would be very surprised if you told me all 4 of those situations
Altogether.
played out as
Yeah.
poorly as they could at
Yep.
the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes, to a T. It's exactly where they're at. It's a tough reality, but it's something that for a team of this caliber for a window that they're in, it's just the problems. These are not problems that the Los Angeles Dodgers should be having. It's something that they have to remedy. You don't weather a season with this like that. You can allow. I'm not dunking on them. The Oakland A's, like if it's the Oakland A's and this is happening, like you can say, yeah, they have like 4 or 5 guys not hitting. Go ahead, just ride it out. That's what we're doing. Call somebody up and just see what they can do. But it's just, this isn't a Los Angeles Dodgers type of stuff to be happening all at the same time.
Yeah, that was a Daniel Stark, and no disrespect to the Oakland A's, but ... So
Yep.
shout out to our guy D Stark, and
D
all the
Stark.
disrespect in the world to the Oakland A's and the way that they decide to run their baseball team.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get to some super chats. As always, we appreciate the folks joining us live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Richard Flores, when CT3 is your last hope, that's how bad it was. I don't think CT3 should be in the lineup ever. I definitely don't think he should be up in a 1-0 game in the top of the 9th inning, Scott. Is there any justification for either of those things in your mind?
I was shocked. I was floored that Miguel Vargas wasn't in the game. I was absolutely shocked by it. And it's different. I know I see another couple super chats I want to get to, but yeah, Richard, same thing, man. Like when it's to that point, when you go 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position, Jared Jones is a terrific arm right now. Like he's a force. And when you get to the point where you have him on the ropes multiple times and he's relying on his fastball to get back into counts, you just somebody has to come up with a swing. Somebody's got to get bad on the ball. Somebody's got to not. I know I saw D-Train and Nomar talking about it after the game. You have to have productive outs. They said it. I saw them get a little hot. You're not even seeing productive swings. CT3 is getting jam shots to the middle infield. That's pathetic. Like it's multiple at bats. Like it's just things you cannot be doing over and over. That's, it's insanity type stuff.
Yeah. Jonathan, never seen it this bad. Scott forgot about June 2021. I forgot about June 2021.
I forgot about June 2021, but I'm talking about like as deep of a bench. Like, where is it at? Like, I'm not, Jonathan, thanks for the super chat, man, but I'm not talking about like this period of time. Like, if you purely look at what they're doing, like this team has no, headhunters. They have nobody that's a mercenary out there. I know Teoscar's in the lineup, but no mercenaries on the bench. Nobody are going up in there saying, yep, I love him against the righty, love him against the lefty. There's nobody that Dave can deploy. And I'm saying, yeah, I think he's going to go up there and give a quality at bat. That's a scary thought. Like, and that's just something where it's like, what platoons do you have when those platoons are to the point where you're like, I don't know what I'm getting out of him today. I don't care. Lefty, righty, doesn't matter. And it's just, this isn't dunking on him. It's just the sample that we've seen. This isn't, too early. It was too early then. Right now, we're getting to the point where this is team evaluation. That's why you're seeing Dave comment on the front office actually saying we're evaluating Gavin Lux now. They're evaluating the rest of that roster. So it's my thing is that I've never seen a bench underperform like this. It's real problems.
Yeah. Jonathan also said this: we don't develop position players anymore. I know this is a big thing you're on. Who was the last hitter to come up and stick? Lux. He first arrived in 2019. Who to blame? Van Scoyoc. What do you think?
Will Smith. Then we talked about, like it's been, Will Smith to come up and stick and then get a huge, well-deserved contract. And to your thing, Jeff, I hate to say it, but the janitor, I'll give that to you, man. You've been on that. I'll let you tip your cap on it. Like he's come up and he's stuck, but that's a concerning thing. You look at teams like it's different. It's totally different. People have brought it up to me that they're picking at the back end of the draft and it's easier to develop pitching than it is hitting. And they're proficient at it. They have a method to it, just like the Dodgers do. And that's why they're a world-class organization and bringing in pitchers and fixing them and getting them paid, maybe not by the Dodgers, but elsewhere. But with Will Smith, he's been in recent memory, the only one that I really think that has come up and stuck and been like, damn, blue chip guy. I know you said that, but it's just like, I don't see like, it's hard to come up as a rookie and stick immediately and hit the ground running, but there's been nobody that's like blazed through the farm system and stuck. Like Gavin Lux did that. He came up and completely different. He got hurt, whatever it was, but he just wasn't exactly the same hitter. Jock was a 30-30 guy in the minor leagues, came up and just became a slugger, didn't steal, different stuff. So it's like smoke and mirrors with their position players. Michael Bush came up and they just didn't have a spot for him. And right now you look at him since mid-April, he's proving the Dodgers, right with getting rid of him, and he's just not sticking. So there's something about it. I don't know who to really blame there. That's well above my head. I don't know there, Jeff. I don't know if you have any ideas on why.
I mean, I've thought about this because you brought it up, and I do think there's part of it where, if you're drafting at the end of rounds and you have the lowest international free agent budget, it's just going to be harder for you to develop young people. It was the book by, who is it? I got the book right here. Pedro Mora, How to Beat a Broken Game. I remember reading this book, and he was talking about like what the Dodgers are doing in building a dynasty. The system is actually built to prevent them from doing. Like they draft worse players. Supposedly they get less money to spend on international free agents. There are more penalties, etc. And yet they do this. So on one hand, I almost think rather than say like, look how bad they've been at this, it's almost more of a miracle how good they've been at developing pitching, which I think is one thing. I think developing hitters, I was trying to do some research, is also harder. I think it's easier to scout pitchers and develop them than it is hitters. Here's the last thing I would say, though. And I just was looking back through, this is MLB Pipeline, some of their top prospects. If you go back 2019, top hitting prospects, Verdugo traded, Keibert Ruiz traded, Gavin Lux torn ACL, which I think is a significant caveat to the Gavin Lux development story, because he did have a season where he appeared to be the guy that we had hoped he was going to be. Will Smith panned out, Jeter Downs traded. Diego Cartaya was 10th on that list. He's obviously super young and has been disappointing. Go to the next year, obviously a lot of the same guys. Cody Hosey appears, he's a bust. Michael Busch appears, he was traded. Go to 2021. Keibert Ruiz again, Michael Busch, Cody Hosey, Diego Cartaya, Andy Pages pops up. So I just think on one hand, the Dodgers have traded a lot of these guys away. And some people are going to say, well, those guys haven't panned out. I mean, I think the Dodgers would probably think slightly to themselves, well, if he was here, maybe he would have had a better outcome. But it's worth pointing out that the Dodgers have literally traded away 60 to 75% of every hitter that has appeared on a top 10 list in the last 5 or 6 years. I think that's part of it. If you look at pitchers, Josiah Gray is basically the only pitching prospect I can remember that they've traded away from this list. I mean, Pepio, I guess a year ago after he had come up at the major league level. So I think there's a lot of different pieces here. I'll land the plane here. Do you think the hitting coach deserves any blame? I just think we are so quick to blame coaches that it's I don't think it's Van Scoyock's fault that Chris Taylor stinks. That's my view. Do you agree?
I think that hitting their approach and philosophy might be an issue. I think it could be, but it's hitter development comes from, the bottom up. Those are organizational philosophies that are ingrained in them.
Yeah.
And there's something to it. And if there was somebody that stuck straight through, it'd be different if there were bits and pieces, but we just haven't seen it. I don't remember the last one where I'm gotta have him in the league. I know I saw somebody in chat mention it, and we talked about it the last time. Ned Colletti drafted all the guys that Andrew Friedman had and went on and won a ring with. So it's those position players he had, Seager, Bellinger, that's who it was. Jock, it was Ned Colletti bats. So
do you think Ned Colletti belongs in the same breath as Andrew Friedman?
I'm not saying that, but I'm certainly saying, I'm just saying if people think Andrew Friedman, in his prowess to draft all bats, that's the where I'll stop them and say he just hasn't done it. Yeah. I don't think if people want to talk about prospects or people going through it, it was Ned Colletti that had those guys come through. And there's clearly a thing about them re-signing, their guys. It's only been Will Smith. Outside of that, who else do you see coming through and really sticking? I just don't. We saw Diego Cartaya have his, big rise up, and then now he's kind of fallen off. I don't know whether they're missing the mark on trading these guys, but they have such a plethora of pitchers.
Yeah.
And it's going to propel us into the next talking point that is it the time, Jeff, that these rumors that are coming out right now about Luis Robert, do they finally dip into that position, the pitcher pool, and they go deal some of these guys because they don't have a plan with the outfield. They just don't.
Ozzy has a super chat. Do you think a trade would cost more now or at the deadline? So there's been rumors of everybody, ESPN, The Athletic, wherever you look, they've got their buyers and sellers list. They've got their guys who could be moved list, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. The Dodgers have been linked. Andrew Friedman has come out and said they're going to be aggressive with hitters. So what do you, so to sort of spin your question back to you, should the Dodgers consider making a move in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
I'm sure they're exploring it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm almost certain that they're doing that. They're working the phones now and kind of seeing what the cost is now, but there's no reason to do it yet. Like they just don't have to. Culture change. I mean, like not culture change, wrong words there. As far as like the pulse of where they're at, I mean, something has to give. Like we've seen these kind of things stumble, and it's at a point where I know we can cite the lead that they have in the West and that they can weather this storm, but it's getting to a point where, they really have to be looking into it. I'm not going to say it has to happen because I'm logical and that the front office won't need make the deal just to make the deal because they got shut down by Jared Jones on June 4th and they have time towards the deadline, but it's getting to a point where, the narrative behind this offense has to change. They have to get some new faces in there, but it's difficult because there's a lot of money that has to be moved around with Chris Taylor if they're going to make a move there. If he stays on the roster, now what do you do with Andy Pajes? Now who plays center field for you? So there's a lot of stuff there. It's a difficult group to manage. And it's not on Dave. I know people are hitting on that, but it's like, what's Dave going to do? He's not the one going up there taking terrible at bats, making terrible swings.
Yeah.
Like so there's got to be something. I don't know if it's a rah type of thing. That's just, people think asking about those type of things from a manager is just he manages these players like they're grown-ups, and I understand that and I appreciate that about him, but it's just there needs to be a new breath. There needs to be some new life because it's just the narrative, you know what I mean? Like when the narrative starts taking over about a group of guys, it can become infectious, and that's what we're seeing right now, my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my only thing is like I feel like 3 weeks ago we were talking about the life that Ohtani had brought, the life that these guys who hadn't won something before had brought coming in Glasnow. So I try my hardest, and you're not doing this, but my encouragement is like, let's not play the result that we just watched and make it into a bigger thing. Like literally the beginning of the season, everyone was talking about Ohtani and the impact he's going to have on the clubhouse. And literally 2 weeks ago, we're having that conversation where it's like, you've got guys who are hungry. They got rid of Justin Turner. They changed some pieces out. They moved some things around, and when they start losing, it goes right back to this. It can easily fall back into the same narrative holes. So that's my only like hesitancy there. I just think at the end of the day, guys need to hit. Like if Teoscar Hernandez goes 1 for 3 today, are we talking about this? If Miguel Rojas goes 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position and the Dodgers win 2-1, like we're probably still critiquing the offense, but we're doing it in a very different light just because some guys went up and their name was called. It didn't work out. Teoscar Hernandez, hits it to a place that it doesn't go out. Chris Taylor hits it to a place that doesn't go out. So I just want to hesitate on that piece. But to circle it back to the original question, the trade deadline, like, sure, why not? I mean, the hard part with baseball is a lot of teams aren't going to be sellers in the next 2 or 3 weeks because basically everybody makes the major league playoffs nowadays. And so I think whether things are going to cost more now or at the deadline,
it'll certainly cost more now. It'll certainly cost more now. Yeah, more control over a period of time. And like the last thing I want to say is about that is that I would think differently if these, like the guys we're talking about that they need to remedy at the bottom of the order had any sort of success at any point throughout the year. Andy Pye is different because he was up and then went down, and now we're seeing him have to work his way back up. But like prolonged stuff, like we haven't seen anything from those guys at all this season. So that's my thing. It's just like I haven't seen it. I don't think anybody in chat's seen it. I know you haven't. I know you want to be, optimistic about what they can do when, factors are different, but situational baseball, situational hitting, they haven't performed, period. And we saw today they got shut out, and it's getting to a point where if your stars aren't hitting, you at least have to put up some fight at the bottom of the order, and they're just not doing it. Like you can't keep coming to the point where it's saying, early season, let's see what they keep continuing to do, run them out there, see if they can, one guy can catch some fire. I think it's to the point where they don't have any juice down there. And that's just kind of where I sit on it. It's a tough thing. It deflates me, man. It really does. Like those names at the bottom of the order, it's a deflating group just because they haven't had that high part. And now we can see where they're going to, if there's a mean that they can get to. I feel like this is their mean. I really do. Yeah.
And look, and tonight it's magnified because those guys, again, like the bottom of the order had 7 opportunities with runners in scoring position. So it doesn't help when those guys are the guys that are struggling. And then you constantly are handing the baton to Lux, Rojas, and Taylor, who are going 0 for 1, 0 for 3, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. It's not like this is a game where those guys came up once or twice total. They came up 7 times. So it makes it worse. Richard says Lux hacking at the first pitch to lead off the 9th. I mean, look, if you're Gavin Lux or Miguel Rojas or any of these guys, like you're just hoping to get a hit, like do you have an issue with him being aggressive there against Bednar, who's one of the best relievers in the league? Like take your hack. It's not like you're worried about pitch count, right?
No, I don't disagree with it. If he got a pitch right there to do that, I'd rather him, get into a spot where if he feels he can, swing out of his job, Richard, like it's a different thing. Like if to Seager approach, I love Seager's approach. He goes up there and the first pitch you might get of an at bat's the best one you're going to see. And if he just misses one, then that's fine. Then go ahead and then you went up there. If he didn't get his pitch, go up there working at bat. It's just situational. Trends for Bednar, I didn't look at them, so I couldn't see if his trends are his first pitch, he's coming in the zone, wants to get strike one, and that's your best opportunity on big fastball pitcher, then that's your best spot. Like for Gavin Lux, who has a tendency to really work counts and take close pitches, which he's been good with, and I'll give him that. Like early on, Jeff, we talked a lot about, I was like, Gavin Lux looks like he's getting the worst calls in the league, and that's why I gave him some leeway in those spots, but it's just if he's going to get a spot where he's just sitting dead red, fastball first pitch, go ahead. Like I have no problem with that. I really do not. Like I know people say, down one, you want to go up there and work a count. What if he goes up there and gets first pitch fastball hard of the plate and he just barrels one standing on second base? Then we're not thinking anything of it. But it's just the fact that he flew out first pitch. That's why it looks really bad.
Yeah. Rod with another super chat. Again, we appreciate all these. He says, why do the big money Dodgers need to keep CT3 because of money? It's a fair question. Dodgers have all this money. Who cares? I mean, the best guess I have, Scott, you tell me if I'm wrong, is because they're desperately holding out hope that the old CT3 is in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think so. It's just, look at the lead, guys. Like, look at this is where I'll say, yes, this is the division lead. Like, they can do that. But if it gets to a numbers game, but my thing, like Jeff, I want to ask you this, Rod, thanks for the super chat, man, is that I've started to ponder, is Kike Hernandez a guy that they think about DFAing? Yeah. Like, that's a conversation because it's, you think he, 1 year, $4 million contract for the season, it's going to get to a point where that's a spot. If he's not producing, they have enough people to play those positions and Rojas can play the corner infield. They have outfielders. Is he a guy that they think about, letting go? And I know nobody wants to talk about that, but that's a contract. If they don't want to commit all that money being gone immediately for Chris Taylor, poof, it'd be Kike Hernandez, and that'd be the easy one. And I don't think anybody would bat an eye except for, the diehard fans of Kike Hernandez.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a great point. I mean, he's better than Chris Taylor. Okay. His 278 slugging percentage is 2x Chris Taylor's 115. But again, what's the argument in favor of Kike Hernandez keeping him? Like, there's not a defensive position that he plays that you need him to play. And I think here's the biggest argument against Kike Hernandez. Dating back to 2019 and including this year, so the last 6 seasons, Scott, how many of those 6 seasons do you think Kike Hernandez had a weighted runs created plus above 90?
I think since 2019.
Since 2019, in the last 6 years, including this, how many of those seasons has he had a weighted runs created plus of 90 or higher?
I think one.
One time. One time he's done it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's
you can tell, I've been diving in. As you can tell, I've been looking, man. Like,
I know. And look, I mean, and that, for the record, that wasn't even with the Dodgers. That was with the Red Sox. His first season's with the Red Sox.
21.
And on top of that, last season before he came over, he was the worst rated defensive shortstop in all of Major League Baseball. So I think there's you can talk yourself into it, but again, he's a cheaper version of Chris Taylor that can be DFA'd. And both guys aren't very good. Both guys basically play the same set of positions. Neither of them is a quote unquote need. So I think it's a great point, Scott. One I haven't heard people bring up, but if you're going to DFA someone, I would imagine that you're spot on that Kike Hernandez is at the top of that list.
In for Kike, thank you. Yeah, it stinks because when they traded him for him last year, it was great. Like, they needed some juice, and it was cool to see Kike back with the Dodgers. He had a little bit of flair, and that was great. But in 52 at bats in May, Kike had a 523 OPS. Just like you said, there's they have enough. Like, now we're getting deep into it. Now, if they want to keep maneuvering the roster where they don't want to just, and organizationally, financially, that's a move that I think they would prefer to make rather than deciding on Chris Taylor now, which is something they don't have to do. Kike Hernandez would be the one. You guys are funny in the chat talking about who's faster. You guys are so funny. Like Kike or CT3. CT3? I would say so.
You
the
think
shoes
so?
don't make Kike faster.
Kike feels younger.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Kike's 32.
I don't know. You guys are funny.
I guess we could look this up, right? They've got Savant's got sprint speed for us. We'll look that up. CT3 or Andy Pages in the 9th spot. Adolfo wants to know with the super chat. Thanks for the super chat. Pages by 1 million.
By 1 million. By an absolute million. Andy Pages looks like at some points like he's ready to turn a corner. It was nice. I liked him. I wish he was barking at that strike call a little bit more. I want to see some fire out of Andy Pages. But look, if he stays within the strike zone, like I like what he brings, but he's such a free swinger right now. He's expanding way too much, but I really do enjoy it. He's getting beat a little bit too much on the fastballs. You saw him chase tonight, when he struck out, on that fastball away. I think that he's got a good approach, but he just expands way too much. I just want to see him barrel some more and not do so much expanding on it, because it's just I think when Andy Pages steps up, I feel so much more confident than Chris Taylor. So Adolfo, thanks for your super chat. So in the 9th hole, definitely. But it's getting to, like, if you want to ask me, like, center field, that's who they have right now. With James Outman not up, that's who they've got. So when you look towards the deadline, it's man, you guys are so funny in chat. If you guys, it's to the spot where who's going to play center field, now, and that's why, Jeff, I really want to talk trades. Can we talk Luis Robert for a minute?
Let's do this. First of all, I'll answer the question. Chris Taylor has a faster sprint speed, 27.8. Versus
there you go.
Hernandez, 26.6. So there's a dub for Scott. Before we talk trades, let's do this. This is a shame, Scott. We haven't mentioned Tyler Glasnow's name once. I know they lost 1-0.
Really? We haven't?
6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts.
Golly.
I mean, we talked about him briefly. You mentioned the stat about nobody scores runs for him. Yeah. He was really good tonight. And I know how this game played out. That it makes some sense that we're just talking about the offense because of how disappointing they were. They lose 1-0. But I do want to mention Tyler Glasnow, who was really, really good. 33% whiff rate tonight. 5 of 11 sliders, 6 of 11 curve. The curveball from Glasnow was absolutely disgusting tonight. Yeah. The called strike plus whiff rate, 35%. So elite stuff from Glasnow. He makes one mistake to the number 9 hitter, this dude that nobody's ever heard of that absolutely kills the Dodgers. And that's it. And that's all that matters. And it's a shame that we're not talking about Glasnow throws a gem as the Dodgers win 7-1.
Yeah, no, it's just incredible stuff from him. I like the sinker that he's been throwing, and I know they talked about that on the broadcast. His curveball was electric. I love the way he's, he gives up the one to Sawinski, and it just feels like, Jack Sawinski. I think they activated him today and just mercenary. There you go. But the way that Tyler Glasnow approaches, starts, and is the understanding that, Mike, he's a dog, dude. Like, I love his pitch mix right now. Expanding on that slider, like when he needs it. He was pretty heavy slider tonight, 26%. So his fastball, just understanding of where to throw it in the zone, where are you getting calls. It's just, he's an unbelievable talent. He's a pure ace. I think he led in whiffs tonight. Swing, 13. So it's just on a night when big fastballs were the thing, he had the bigger night. He's just an anchor. And it's just super unfortunate that he got no run support. He hasn't been getting run support. But Dodger fans can be like, rest assured that you have a number 1 right at the front of your rotation who's going to go out there and going to compete no matter what, whether his team's behind him or not. Yeah, I think they are. They're just in a bad spot. But Tyler Glasnow is a guy that can go out there and lead a staff, and this is who he is. Yeah.
One other guy I want to mention real quick before we talk some trades and stuff like that is Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, if there was a bright spot offensively, it was Freddie Freeman, 2 for 4 today. He's got the single and the double. That goes back to on Sunday. He goes 1 for 1 with 3 walks with a home run. Before that, Saturday, he's 2 for 4 with a triple. So this is a guy that I know some people were skeptical of. You could even keep going back. He had a 2 for 3, a 3 for 5. Last week, he's got 2 home runs now in his last 7 games. I joked that I wish I grinded to the 13th best weighted runs created plus in baseball like Freddie Freeman does. But even though the numbers have sort of been there, like, do you feel like he's starting to look like the Freddie Freeman that I think people have been anxious for?
Yeah, I totally do. We talked about it the last time we were on here, and I really enjoyed how he was approaching fastballs, because I know a lot of people, including myself, when you thought for 1 second when you saw him getting blown down, David, agree. He's got totally screwed on a call. That when he was getting blown down by fastballs, we started to go, father time. But no, you saw tonight. He comes up first at bat on 100-mile-an-hour fastball. base knock. We saw that twice. So it's just really feel like that he's at a spot where he feels good. And then second at bat, he gets a hanging curveball, bangs it for a double. So he looks really good right now. Like he looks locked in. He looks like he's got that feel, barrel's really right, staying right in the zone. And Freddie Freeman's a grinder, man. Just like you said, he goes up there and just walks his way straight into, the top 15 in the league. Incredibly consistent guy, but I think there's something to it against lefties. I'd really like to see them a little bit. Like, I don't know if it's going to get to the point where we drop him in the order past Will Smith, because that could create some other issues. But Freddie Freeman has looked very good lately, and that's something they've needed. So I'm super encouraged what I'm seeing out of 5.
Yeah, it's been nice. It's been nice again, because I think the numbers have been there, but the optics of it are starting to look a little bit better there as well. All right, we're going to get to a couple news items here in just a second. Max Muncy injury update, some stuff like that. Of course, we'll take questions, talk trades. Let me pause real quick and talk about our sponsor and give a shout out to So Rare MLB. I know you've heard us talking about So Rare over the last few weeks. Fun stuff here. Fantasy baseball, digital collectible cards. They've got a marketplace where you can buy and sell with real money, make some real money, win some real money, or just play for free. Common cards, all sorts of good stuff. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description. I was on a conference call today. Fun stuff. Huge all-star game type giveaways coming up. Real cash giveaways coming in the month of July. So we'll have details on that. I do want to give a shout out. We mentioned Tyler Glasnow. He's on my squad. 32 points today, which is a big number. So shout out to Tyler Glasnow. Ohtani is 0. I keep starting him. I can't not start him because the ceiling on Ohtani is so good. One other guy that I think is a sleeper for me, Scott, and I know it's a Padre, so we don't love this, but a guy that I've liked lately, Matt Waldron. It's kind of a knuckleball, I believe he's mixing in. He's had like 3 or 4 starts in a row that are nice. I got him on the cheap. So that might be my my turn and burn type player that we make some money. Have you started to dabble in So Rare at all?
Yes. So I've got, Zach Wheeler, big fan, like have been for quite some years. Just love his makeup. Love that he just pounds his own. So big arm there. Brewers guy, though. Flex spot, Joey Ortiz. He's kind of been, sneaky guy for the year, low, budget dude. So he's just been, rookie of the year candidate. It's been incredible for him. So I've got him on my team. Gunnar Henderson, Adley, Rutschman from the Baltimore Orioles. So nice duo there. So I've dabbled in a little bit. We're getting up to speed, Jeff. I promise you.
There we go. There we go. Last week, I entered the competition where you've got to have paid cards to go in. I've spent a little bit of money. It's been fun and got top 100, which means I got a free card. Zach Littell, starter for the Rays. Not a high value card, but basically I got a card that I could turn around and sell for $5 for free. So kind of good stuff there. So if you haven't already, what's that?
Stocks.
There we go. We're buying the dip, baby. Buy the dip. If you haven't already, click the link in description. Join Scott, join myself, join Anthony, join Blake, join the whole Dodger Blue team in playing So Rare again. Shout out to them for being a great sponsor, supporting us, and all of that. Let's talk real quick about a positive injury update, Scott. Then we'll get to some trade deadline stuff. Max Muncy. I said a positive injury update. That's the wrong transition here. That's a misleading headline. A very negative injury update from Max Muncy. These were the quotes. He was asked about how his oblique is doing. It felt great. It felt normal. I was taking ground balls, throwing across the infield. We didn't feel a thing. So we progressed to swinging. I had 2 good days of full batting practice where I didn't feel anything at all. At this point, you're starting to think, man, roses, unicorns, like, let's go. Max Muncy's coming back. And then the 3rd day it flared up. It's one of those things where my body was telling me to slow things down. And so now we're just sitting here. I don't think anybody has a timetable. I don't think anybody has a timetable. He's already been out for 2 weeks because we can't really put one on it. An oblique strain is probably the worst injury you can have as a position player because you can't do anything. You can't strengthen it. You can't strengthen the area around it. You can't do anything with the rest of your body because you have to involve your core to do it. You have to sit and let it heal. And that is where we're at. We talked about how badly they need Max Muncy back, Scott. That sounds like we're like 3 weeks away minimum. I mean, we have no timetable is like the worst thing you could hear. It is an oblique, so we can have a timetable in our head. It's not like an elbow or a shoulder, no timetable situation. But man, on a day when you need some offensive production, when you need Max Muncy back, that's not the update we wanted.
Yeah, the update prior to this in late May, like about a week ago, was that he stopped swinging Dave said he stopped swinging for the time, and now it's to the point where I really do think that it's going to be some time. Like, I know I see people saying out for the season. Like, it could get to the point where
Scott, it can't be some time. Dave told us it was just going to be the minimum.
Little bit of minimum, right? Dave, classic Dave, guys. But I think, Jeff, it's a concerning thing too.
Yeah.
Like it's this, we're going to be projecting towards past the deadline, all-star break. So it's going to get to you just have to shut it down. I know myself, I went to the cages like 2 weeks ago. My rib cage was flaring.
Here we go, baby.
A week. Like, I hadn't swung like that. I was playing slow pitch for the last couple years, and I stepped in against 80, and after like 100 swings, I was ripping. So it was hurting.
You were taking swings on 80 miles an hour?
Oh, BP. Yeah.
What's our contact rate in there? We putting the bat on the ball
pretty high
of the time?
Pretty high. We need to get in the men's league. I know people, I got my buddies watching. They're going to definitely say,
Bro,
I was
terrified of 55 miles an hour as like a sixth grader. I ain't getting in an 80 mile an hour cage. I mean, I get in a cage because at least you know where it's going, but men's league is a big hard pass for me. Too much variability. I don't want the guy that throws 80 that pounded a couple Busch Lights right before taking them out. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah. But definitely, back to Muncy, like it's a slow, somebody said it's going to be a slow program. Yeah, it's going to be a slow time. Yeah, especially for, I know people want to make a thing about his body, but it's for anybody. It's a oblique injury is nothing to mess with. It's kind of a spot where you just have to slow it down, and hopefully it doesn't flare up and it's healed. And with as much torque Muncy puts into those swings, it could be quite some time. So, but that's my thing about Rojas could get some more run in that way, pushing somebody to the corner infield, and at least you're getting a solid glove there. But I really do think that, do they need a third baseman? Do they need an infielder? But it's just now it's going to open up another issue for him. It's unfortunate because Muncy means so much to this lineup, and it had a little protection for Teoscar. So now now that we don't really know what Max Muncy is going to give, we just hope it's not the season. That's worst case scenario, and that's something I don't think I'm even ready to hypothesize yet. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. And keep in mind, I mean, Muncy's got one more year left on his contract and then a club option in 2026 on friendly terms. So that's the other tricky part when you're trying to trade to replace, talking about trading to replace a guy who's just injured, but who's projected to come back at some point this season. Still, I think would be a safe bet and definitely in the mix next year and beyond at the age of 34 and then the age of 35. You kind of have to walk that fine line between finding a replacement, but knowing that it's a short-term replacement as well.
Absolutely.
So again, the update on Max Muncy is that there is no update. There is no timetable. He swung, he felt good. He swung, he felt good. He swung, he felt bad. And he's totally shut it down. And because of that core injury, like Scott's talking about there's just nothing you can do about it. You just got to sit around and wait. You can't keep your legs fresh. You can't keep your arms fresh because all of it involves your core. So tough luck for the Dodgers, tough luck for Max Muncy. But again, on a day like today, reminded just how desperately they need Max Muncy back. One more story to hit real quick, Scott. This was the breaking news today. Obviously, Major League Baseball hit with a gambling scandal. A guy from the Padres banned for life. I love just saying the Padres. Like, he never played for the Padres one time, but he's technically on the roster. Tucupita Marcano banned from baseball for betting on baseball games, betting on his team. He was assigned to the team, but injured during all of them. How about this, Scott? He lost every single one of them, according to reports. He gambled more than $150,000 on baseball and won just 4.3% of his bets, Scott. 4.3% of his bets. I know that the odds are stacked against you, but they're not 95-5 stacked against you.
Come on, man.
So 4 other guys suspended for a year for breaking the rules about betting on non-baseball sports, a bunch of minor leaguers. But then the big Dodgers news, of course, Shohei Ohtani officially cleared as Ippei Mizuhara pleads guilty. MLB concludes its investigation. Ohtani, it's time to move on. Dodgers, it's time to move on. So bad news for baseball. I joked with Daniel. Scott, do you want to put the tinfoil hat on? Is it a coincidence that Ohtani gets cleared like 3 hours after they ban a guy for life?
I think it's a news dump. I think it's for sure MLB came out and suspended all these other guys and banned one of them for life. And then they just come out and say that, he's Shohei Ohtani's all cleared. But I also think it opens up another light that you could say and be critical to people who want to put on those tinfoil and say, this is MLB covering it up. And you look how ridiculous and how little these guys bet, for them to get suspended for a year. Yeah. And one
guy had bet like $90 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I saw one, and I was laughing with my buddies. And I know if anybody in here play just Prize Picks or DraftKings or whatever, if you're playing parlays and day of stuff and fantasy stuff, I don't know about you, but I win I wouldn't say like 70% of the time, but me and my buddies are like a pretty good conversion rate. So I'm like, how are these guys this bad at this? They literally, come on, like I don't know, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But to what Manfred said about the federal investigation, they weren't going to find anything more than, the federal government's going to find out. Like it's above their head. Like they're going to get as much information, or if not the same, as that, the feds are going to get. So Manfred wanted this to go away. It's good for baseball for it to go away, but it also says like Shohei Ohtani was a victim, and that's just what people need to leave it as. And if you want to put your tinfoil hat on, that's cool, but he's playing baseball because to their investigation, nothing happened.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And hey, if this guy would have just taken my bets anytime we do some previews, I mean, I was on with Daniel. I gave on my plus money pick of the day. We had over 1.5 walks plus 115. That bad boy cashed. I gave you Jones over 5.5 Ks. That one cashed. That was minus 110. So the only bet I think I handed out that was a loss was the total innings. So we'll take our chances. Yeah, he went 6, and that bet was under 16.5, so 5.2 he cashed. So we go 2 for 3. One of those is plus money though, Scott. This guy, he'd still be banned for baseball, but at least he'd have higher than a 4.3%. At
least he'd have $50 in his pocket,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, that's dumb. Can we say this? It's kind of ridiculous that he was banned. Is it? Well, let me ask. Is it ridiculous he's banned from baseball for betting on games that he had nothing to do with? I mean, I guess the theory is that because he's a member of the organization, maybe he has information and therefore is betting on it. He lost every one of these, so he obviously didn't have information. But I feel like there's a difference between betting on games you're playing in versus betting on games like you're technically a member of the Pirates organization, but you're not even anywhere near the clubhouse. I don't know. Maybe that's a dumb.
I think that a lot of people have the same thought that why does it matter if you're not betting on the sport that you're playing in? Yeah. I think it's not good to bet on I don't think it should be allowed to bet on the sport or the same league that you're playing in.
Yeah.
But it's hard when every single thing is presented by DraftKings, Prize Picks, all this, MGM, BetMGM, all this. I don't think that it should be an issue to bet on sports that you are not playing in.
Yeah.
That's just me. I really don't gambling is becoming so mainstream, but there is no reason, in my opinion, that somebody playing an MLB can't bet on the NHL. What poll do they have? They're not doing it. And then if there is, then there's an investigation that can be had there. But as far as it is on the surface, I really don't think that there should be, but it's also a tricky thing. I see somebody in chat talking about it it's, gambling's an addiction and guys with that much money could have it, but that's individual basis. It could be for anybody. Joe Schmo could be, have a gambling addiction and it's ruining his entire family. But who's saying that a player in the MLB can't bet on the NHL or NBA, whichever? I think it should be allowed.
Well, the worst was the NFL. The NFL, it's I believe the guys that got busted for placing bets while at the team facility. If you place bets at your house, you're fine, but team facility, then you get suspended. It's crazy, crazy stuff. So
yeah, and then there's players doing like fantasy baseball leagues that are or fantasy football leagues that are paid or big money stuff there. So it's why is that okay? Why is that okay? They do a gambling league or thing for that. That's gambling, right? In the sense. So it's just all gray area there. It's old rules meeting new age stuff. So there has to be some, bridging of the gap there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk trade candidates. You referenced it. Luis Robert is one name. I'll throw one other name at you. There's a guy DFA'd today who's a name that people are going to recognize. You'll recognize him from a few years ago, but the Marlins DFA'd Avisail Garcia today. This is a guy who got paid $50 million a few years ago. I throw him out there simply because he's free. He's going to be just available on the waiver wire, presumably. 2.3 wins above replacement back in 2021. Has been negative wins above replacement since. He basically has one great season, 4.5 wins back in 2017, two win seasons in 2019 and 2021, and then it's been worthless since then. I mean, any interest at all in DFA Kike Hernandez, sign him to a minimum deal and see what happens, or no?
I mean, if they want to do it to a minor league thing, I don't know about a major league contract. I would say a minor league deal and just give it a shot. Why not? But No, I don't really want him. He's been, if you can't crack it there and with Miami, like it's, I mean, like it's a tough thing. I wouldn't really touch that. But I see Mike. I really want to talk about, Blade. I looked into him a little bit and I like his splits. Like I feel like he's somebody that could come up. Like lefties, he hasn't been so great, but recently he's been.
You're talking about Robert?
No, JJ Blade, like from the A's. So we're talking about he's had a little bit of a success. I like him. 800 OPS guy, 8 pops on the year. 22 RBI. Like I like what he brings. Definitely. Like they need these corner outfield guys. But center field's a spot where now you can have the conversation where, okay, now if Luis Robert's not the guy that you're going to go with, I think he's somebody that they could explore for sure. 26 years old. I would say they have some team control there. So it's definitely an option, but I think they need some impact, man. Like, and this is going to bring us to the conversation of, engaging with the White Sox. I don't know, Jeff, you want to tee that up for a sec?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd say about Blade that I like is just this is a guy who used to be at one point was one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball, was a top draft pick. Yeah, he was the 4th overall pick back in 2019. So, I mean, that's crazy to think. That was 5 years ago.
Yep.
And he was coming out of Vanderbilt. He was a really well thought of guy. The Marlins already took a haircut. And when they traded him to the A's, they kind of exchanged some distressed assets. If you look at the A's and Marlins, by the way, those teams just trade like this guy used to be a really hot prospect for this guy used to be a really hot prospect, and we'll see what happens. Sometimes it pans out. Luzardo for the Marlins seems like a good get. Blade for the A's seems like a good get. But yeah, I think he's interesting. I mean, the White Sox are the one team. Like, if you want to look across Major League Baseball and say, like, who's the one team that you feel pretty good about, like, they're probably not going for it this year. Like, they're probably going to be available. It's the White Sox. How's this for a stat? The White Sox are 25 games out of first place in their division. They are 15 games behind the 4th place team in their division. That's how pathetic the White Sox are. They have 15 wins. The next lowest team in all of Major League Baseball is 21. So think about the Colorado Rockies. The White Sox are 6 games worse than the Colorado Rockies. Robert's the guy. I mean, he's had some injury problems, but talk me through. Like, I'm not saying he has injury problems. I'm not interested. That's like the downside. There's obviously a lot of upside there. So talk me through Robert if there's anybody else on that roster you like.
I mean, take a deep breath, everybody. Please take a deep breath about Tommy Pham. Like, please just please do it. Like, he's somebody that should be on the radar. Mookie Betts has done it, has brought it to the front office attention. There was interest there in the offseason. There was interest last deadline. Like, I'm waiting for chat to start exploding about it, but that's a name that, he will be because his cost is not high in terms of financials, but in terms of prospects, like that's somebody like that teams will want. Like he brings an edge. He was in like terrific last year in the World Series. Like I got to pull it up. I included that in the article, like 421, 429, 737 slash 4 extra base hits in the World Series. So we're talking about a postseason performer, and that's somebody that I would absolutely welcome to the organization. Like they need some fire. They need someone who does not care, like who does not care. And he's just going to go up there and, people say Friedman's worst nightmare. Absolutely not. Like there's a reason why the conversation was had. Why, like he didn't bring him into the organization might be because they thought they had some upside with their current roster, but Pham's definitely a name. But to Luis Robert, like, he's one of the most affordable contracts in terms of outfielders in baseball with a superstar potential. He's got club options all the way through the 2027 season. Like we're talking a guy who has the ability to be a superstar. Like he is terrific. Like they need a center fielder. They have nobody in the organization right now that you can just bring in and say, yep, set him and forget him. Like he's done this. Like there's nobody. Like we talk about controllable assets with position players. This is someone that you can finally feel comfortable dipping into your massive pool of starting pitching and or pitching in your minor league system and say, yeah, like this is, you can go ahead and gut that for a bit for someone who's actually worth a damn. Like it's tough because how often are there these players available where, now you can help me out with Jazz Chisholm. No, I don't. I don't want him, Mike. But with Luis Robert, like right-handed bat, play center field, serve it like he's on a controllable contract, and for them to make him available, I don't know how deep that'll go, but he's just a terrific piece, and it's someone that is worthy of Andrew Friedman going all in and getting a little bit crazy. Now, if you want me to talk about a package for him, it'll be hefty. It'll have to include like James Outman. Like, I mean, we're talking like dipping into the top guys. There's going to be a lot of names there that you might not like seeing leave, like Dalton Rushing. It's going to be a lot. I have to pull up their prospect list, but it'll be a package that you fans might think it's too much until you start to see what Luis Robert can do on a baseball field. And always hurt. You can talk about that, but his ceiling is way higher than anybody in their organization that could bring in, and they can replenish that. These guys, we just saw them fleece the Chicago Cubs for an incredible lefty for Michael Busch, and we're cooking. So it's just, I think that this is the year that they can do it. And Jeff, I knew you were with me last year on that, and just having a wealth of prospects and like, who can we go out and finally deal them for and feel comfortable with paying a little too much?
Yep. That would be my only pushback to the Tommy Pham move is that I would much rather pay 2x, 3x the prospect capital that it takes you to go get Tommy Pham to go get a guy who's a long-term answer. Because again, you look at the Dodgers outfield, they have one guy who's an everyday player right now. It's Teoscar Hernandez. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And I believe they can offer him the qualifying offer, so he might stick around for a year. They get some compensation, whatever. But I mean, Outman, I still hold out hope for. I'd like to see that he goes down to AAA, tears it up. I still believe in Miguel Vargas's bat at some level, but I don't know if he can ever play left field. So if we're talking outfielders, what is it? Rooker over on the A's is a guy that I like too. Like, just go get a guy that you can pencil into the lineup for 4 years, because the flip side of this, they have so much starting pitching to deal. We talk about all the position players that haven't panned out. Like River Ryan just went on a rehab assignment and looked good. And it's like Jackson Ferris, who you mentioned. I mean, these guys are like 12th, 13th, 14th on the pitching depth chart just in the farm system. Maddox Bruns, former first-round pick. Like, they got these dudes everywhere. Nick Frasso, who's going to be a guy, but he's out for this season. Landon Knack, who probably doesn't have a high enough ceiling to really ever punch into the Dodgers rotation. But like, are you kidding me? The A's, like, they'd go crazy
Jeff.
for the guy. So
keep cooking. You're cooking.
I'm just saying, like, I'm with you in that I would much rather move those guys. I don't think Robert, like, the injury stuff scares me because I feel like I need somebody. We're talking about the bottom of the line. I just need somebody who's going to play. Like, I would value high floor almost over high ceiling to some degree, because I just, like, if we're talking about a guy who we're going to pencil into like the 7 hole, I just want him to be there. I want him to be consistent. I want him to be reliable. I want it to be a low bust rate. That would be my sort of what I would pay for. And Robert, you look at some of the games played stuff on him. That's what scares you a little bit. 145 games last year.
I know.
So,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But, we look at, you look at the top prospect stuff, and it's like to the same thing about like Diego Cartaya. It's now that Will Smith's locked up. Where are they playing these guys? This is the year you went out and paid 2 starting pitchers. You've got, Gavin Stones for the foreseeable future. You've got Dustin May coming back. Tony Gonsolin will be back. Emmett Sheehan at some point in the future. It's like, how many of these guys are really going to have spots? And who, like, they could gut their catching depth at the top level, and it wouldn't matter a bit. I don't care. Hunter Fiducia could be gone. Don't care, but he's 27. It's like, you can't get to the point where we're talking about, missed your mark. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I see somebody saying he's a bust, he's a throw, and I agree. It's tough. They missed their mark, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting ahead of that point where it's like, you have these prized prospects, and everybody feels like they have so much potential in the farm system. I don't want them to miss the mark.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand that. Like, if you're going to trade people and there's, they don't match up on a price, and then it doesn't happen. But I feel like this is a spot where they can overpay and get ahead of that, and get ahead of missing out on some of these prospects where just because, they don't have to keep players in the organization just for organizational depth. Why? If you can go out and if you can deal them and you're so confident that you can just churn out 3 top catchers, 4 top catchers like they have consistently done, just get them out while the value's high and other organizations value them. Or I saw someone bring up the smoke and mirrors, or you can continue that smoke and mirrors thing with these prospects that, they look terrific in the Dodgers organization, but once you get them in theirs, who knows? So it's like, I'd rather them sell high on it while they still can and really do it right now. Like, this is a spot, this is a team that you cannot continue with the same problems. Like, we're going an hour, and it feels like an eternity ago that we talked about their lower third in the order, but it's just, this is a spot where they have to do it. They need another mainstay out there. They can't have another revolving door with an outfield spot, because after this year, Teoscar's a free agent. They need somebody who can be an anchor. And I really, Riley Green, Mike, I'll check it out, dude. Like, hit me up on Twitter, man. We'll chat. We'll hit my DMs and we'll talk about some pieces. But it's just a spot, Jeff. And I know you and I are aligned on that. We were last year. prior to the season, I think, is when we were really talking about it, that they have to really dive into the depth of their farm system and make a trade that feels worth it. Not just because they want to, because I feel like they have to. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, and I mean, there's days when the cost, they can only negotiate from one side. We have no idea what the asks are. And there have been some ridiculous asks for players in the past, and especially when you're the Dodgers. And so there's going to be a tax on it. I'll throw one other name at you. Then we'll get to a couple questions before we get out of here, Scott. But let me throw one more name at you. This guy was the picture on Jeff Passan's article today. Randy Arozarena. Is Randy Arozarena a name that you'd kick the tires on? He's been not good this year, but he's been a guy that, if you want to talk about consistency, has been a valuable player 3 consecutive seasons prior to that. I believe he's like a 2-win player, 4.2, 2.8, 3.5 the last 3 years. He's a negative 0.8 right now. He's hitting like a lot of Dodgers guys, a 590 OPS. The Rays are hovering around 500, but he's got 2 years of team control after this one. The Rays are 10 games back of second place.
He's older. He's 29. He's 29. Like I'm with you.
But that kind of fits, right? Because you want a guy that's in the 29, 30, 31 range. Give me the guy in his prime. Give me a guy who's performed on the biggest stage. He plays outfield. You could see he hits right-handed, so you get concerned about hitting lefties or something like that. He slots in nicely. I mean, Arozarena, we know the Dodgers and Rays have a working relationship. They've done a bunch of stuff. Obviously, Glasnow being the most recent. So I could see see there being a fit there if the Rays do raise things and say, yes, we're 500, which most teams would be thrilled about. But there's 2 teams in our division that are 10 plus games better than us. And let's cash in our Arozarena chips and rebuild now.
Yeah, no, I've loved what Randy's done since he beat up on the Dodgers. I really have. Like I like postseason performers. I think that plays they give you a good baseline. This year's a big time outlier performance for him. It's exactly what you said. Like he's a controllable bat. They need that. They need someone. And if it's not pausing the timeline, it's that, yes, like you need someone who's going to remedy a spot for a few years until you can get them through this window. Everybody, it's the elephant in the room. This is the time. This is the window. Mookie Betts is not young. Ohtani's not, he's just signed this contract. Freddie Freeman is getting to a point where we're having the father time conversation when things aren't great. And that's not a good thing to have. You have to win right now. So if it's, popping everything up. I think that Randy is a guy that if they can bring in for a price, it's a cost controlled. He's, ARB eligible. So I'm with it. Like after this year, like he's an arbitration guy. I would absolutely bring him in for sure. Yeah. Like for the cost, like you'd have to see what the Rays would ask, but he's someone I'd be totally interested in. Corner bat. And if they like what they see out of Outman, like he's a corner guy. That's I'm with you. Yep.
One other name that popped up in that article, this would be on the lower end name. It's a guy that we saw play against the Dodgers today. It's a guy who used to be in the Dodgers system, Connor Joe. He's an outfielder. This wouldn't be a high cost guy, but he does have a few years of team control. So if you're looking for like a number 8, 9 hitter that you can pencil into the lineup for a couple of years, he's put together basically, obviously this year will be his best year, but he's been a 1-win player for the last 2 years. This year he's on pace to be closer to 2.5 to 3-win player. So just another name I'll throw out there as a mention. We got another super chat here from Rod. How many good hitters will be available? That's the tough part. I mean, again, baseball, there are so many teams that make the playoffs. That's the trickiest part that here is there's a lot of teams buying and there's very few teams selling. And that's a bad combination if you're a team like the Dodgers.
Whole lot of mid this year, Rod. Yeah. I know. Thanks for the super chat, man. Thanks everybody in chat being here, dude. Jeff, we got 1,800 tonight.
It's awesome. We're firing.
That's awesome. But a whole lot of mid. And that's the problem with the new format. We're going to see teams that in years past, prior to this expanded playoffs, they'd have no shot, that we'd already be saying, yep, seller. Now every single team just has to, mosey their way on in. We saw with the Rangers, they went on to win a World Series. Diamondbacks, we looked at it and it was like they overtook the West, and it's a difficult spot. It stinks because trades are going to get more expensive mid-year. That's why a lot of teams wait till the offseason. And if you have the opportunity to do it in the offseason, it's better then. But this is a Dodgers team right now that if names get dangled out there, you might have to pay. But that's the tough thing with Andrew Friedman. He really doesn't like to overpay, but it feels like a spot where they kind of have to. But good. Yeah, great question, Rod. Like how many are going to be available? We don't know. There's a lot of mid this year, both NL and AL. It's really mid. The National League is super average. And that's what's scary. The Dodgers are looking have a 7-game lead in the division. And we're over here talking about, red alert stuff, which is, what does that say? Like that's, Yeah,
I'm with you. Noisy Ninja, what's the point of keeping all these prospects if it doesn't seem like they trust any of them? This is I think the key thing, right? Because it's really easy to say, trade him. Like 6 months ago, a lot of people were ready to ship Gavin Stone right out the door because he had come up and he was bad for a month and couldn't figure it out, and out he goes. So it is worth pointing out that sometimes you trade away prospects and it doesn't work out, or sometimes you keep prospects and it doesn't, and it does work out. You don't trade away Bobby Miller, you don't trade away Emmett Sheehan, you don't trade away Landon Knack even, and these guys come up and are productive. So I do think there's some value in pointing that out. Baseball wants to know Trey Sweeney, or I believe it's Austin Gauthier, for some fresh blood. Both are Rule 5 eligible after the season anyway. Do you see any of these? Sweeney is a shortstop. Gauthier, I believe, is an infielder as well. Any chance of these guys getting called up, you think, Scott?
Maybe trade bait, I would say. Like if they're Rule 5 eligible, like I could see them getting dealed. Like another team wants to give them a shot somewhere, but I understand like they're having, good seasons where they're at in AAA, but I just take all that with OKC with a grain of salt, big time, just because big time hitter friendly. Trey Sweeney has, he's come alive with the power as of late, but his month of May as a whole wasn't too great. Yeah. Like I know we saw the flash and flare from him, but it wasn't the best thing ever. Like Gauthier, if they want to try out another outfielder, but why is Miguel Vargas up here? It's just a big old mess. I think they need some impact. I'm tired of just wondering and hoping and praying one of these dice roll type of guys catches on and goes from there. Like if they're going to give somebody some run, give them some run, but nobody's grabbed that yet. Yeah.
Gauthier has played. He's that's right. He's all over the place. So he's played shortstop, second base, third base, and right field, primarily a shortstop, and left field as well. So 21
doesn't
games.
That make it even Kike? Doesn't that make it even worse for him? You have a bunch of guys who can play a bunch of different positions, and Kike's a very mid infielder, and he's a very average outfielder.
I'm with you. I see a chat about the Yasiel Puig documentary that I was in. If you haven't seen it yet, Rich and Shameless series. We'll talk about it on here at some point. But it's an interesting documentary. I would say that. I enjoyed being a part of it, and it was good stuff. There was one more question, and we'll go out on this one. And it kind of sums it up. So we'll go short here. Michael wants to know, what do you need to see from Freeman at the trade deadline in order to be confident going into the postseason? Is it simply, are we talking 2 bats? Are we talking 2 bats and a reliever? Where are you at, Scott?
I'd say I need to see a starting outfielder. I need to see one starting outfielder in a mercenary role-playing bat.
Yeah.
I need to see someone. Yeah. I think a starting outfielder. Otherwise, he's unserious about the season. And this was, I really do. I don't see a way that they can't maneuver themselves with a division league like this, with the league as average as it is, with the pitching staff as good as it is. I'll say it. I'll say it. Damn, Jeff. Like, this is a pitching staff that you could win a World Series with. I don't care. Like, it truly is. It really, but it's just the offense. There's just so many spots. See people say 3 bats. It's a lot. I'd say, 2 bats, a starting quality outfielder and a role playing whatever. If it's a lefty, it's a righty. I don't care. You need to have someone who's a platoon guy that's going to go up there. It's just tough when I need to see less whiff. I need to see, more quality at bats, just put the ball in play. And I know Freddie Freeman spoke about it. And I think D-Train brought it up, that it's usually the guys who are high batting average guys that talk about need more bat. We need some more bat to ball. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, you need it. It's a concerning thing that you have 3 guys at the bottom of the order, so sometimes penciled and all at the same time, where it's like, they're all at risk of striking out, and everybody piling on Teoscar. It's just his hitting profile, but it's also he's being exposed because he doesn't have the Max Muncy protection in front of him, and then behind him there's nobody there. So I think a starting quality outfielder for sure. And if they go get one more role player, I was bringing up Mark Canha. I think that's someone that they could also look for. Like, I think he's another bat that they could do it. He's played both corner outfield positions, played first base, been DH there with Detroit. He's a veteran guy. Contracts a little bit. I think they'd have to eat or they have like $6 million the rest of the year. But he's someone who's been consistent. That's another name that people could keep an eye out for. But Rosarena is a good one. I'm glad you brought that up. Consistent performer in the playoffs, just having a big outlier year. But Mike, to your thing, a starting quality outfielder and a role player for sure. Otherwise, I'm not fed up. I'll just be like, there's no way they believe this is a unit that can go deep into the postseason.
I would say the way I would put it is they need one bat that I really like and one bat that I don't hate. That's the language I would use.
I like that, Jeff. I like that a lot.
Because it's one starting guy that you I like it. Hey, or Rosarena or Robert or Phil Rooker. Like, okay, I like this guy, and then one guy that you just throw down at the bottom. Think about Gavin Lux, not at his peak, but Gavin Lux of like a couple years ago where it was like, he's a 9-hitter. Like, I don't hate it. Whatever. He's going to hit 230, 240. He's going to slap a little bit, that's what I need. I need one of those as well. And at the same time, this is what's dumb about this sport in baseball. Like the major league playoffs, the best teams don't always win. And so it's just tricky. And I think they're good enough at the top of the order to be a serious contender no matter what they do. 1 through 4, 5 and 6. If Teoscar and Muncy are both healthy, that's a big if. There you go. So we'll go out on this. Rod with the super chat. Bring back the Wild Horse. Unlikely, Rod. One thing that the documentary does not mention is there are other legal issues that our guy Yasiel Puig has. Unfortunately, some other things following him around that we didn't get into, but I do love Puig, the player on the field, strictly on the field talking. He's one of my all-time favorite Dodgers, if not my all-time favorite Dodger. His bobblehead prominently placed right there. One of the only bobbleheads I went out of my way to go buy. So
love it.
Love me some Puig. Last thought, Scott, before we sign off here.
I just wanted to ask you, has the conversation for you shifted a little bit less towards the middle infield and towards the outfield more? Or is the level of concern with what Gavin Lux putting in, the pressure that could be on Mookie outweighing what's going on? Or do you think they're both things that need to be addressed in one way or another, or just managed with playing time down the stretch?
I've definitely, I think we are all on it, but I was on, hey, outfield is the whole, because there's 3 positions out in the outfield and there's nothing redeemable about like 2 of them. Like there's not, I think Outman is kind of a guy where like, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to Outman simply because it's like, well, at least he's really good defensively. Like A, we don't think he's that bad offensively, and B, at least he gives us that, Whereas, so I just think they have more holes. And the thing I've said all along is just cheaper. It's just cheaper to find a right fielder or a left fielder than it is to find a shortstop. And so I think the supply is going to be out there. I think that's where the need is going to be. Look, if Lux continues to be really, really bad and they want to make a move for a middle infielder, then I'm not going to complain at all. Like if that's where the bat comes, great. I just don't, I think it's going to be a lot harder there. So it's kind of a tinge of a sprinkle of realism mixed in with the reality of like where their needs are, if that makes sense.
That's where that offseason talk comes in, guys. Like that's where it's like we're acquiring someone mid-year or later in the year, like in the offseason, that's going to be the more of the thing. Yeah, Don, great point. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Like that's the ideal thing to get back to the thing. But we might be in a spot where Mookie might be stuck at shortstop and they'll just have to maneuver themselves. And hopefully when Muncy comes back, you're able to put Rojas in more of a secondary role and kind of spell Mookie when he does need it and go from there. So I'm with you. I totally agree. You have to remedy 2 spots in the outfield and hammer out your rotation there, because as it stands, it's back to my worry from early on in spring training when we talked that I just hope that they don't have 2 platoon spots. Yeah. So that was my walk-off type of thing. And it's something that we'll be, discussing more going forward. We really have to continue looking at the trade market and how they can do this, because I think they're on the same, plane that we are, honestly. Yeah. Like they need to find a controllable, piece that can play every day. And just like, I like what you said, repeat that for me. Someone that you love.
One bat that we really like and one bat that we don't hate.
I love it. I love it.
And hey, if they trade for a shortstop, move Mookie to right field, you solve 2 problems at once. How about that?
Oh, geez. All righty.
All right, everybody. Hey, 1,900 people right as we close out. Thank you so much. I know this one was ugly. I know it was early, but we appreciate you all being here. I always say these are great group therapy sessions. I'm a verbal processor, getting on here with Scott, who gets fired up about some things. I'm getting fired up about some things. People in the chat are fired up about other things. It's what makes this so fun. It's what makes being a fan following the Dodgers so great. So we appreciate every single one of the 1,904 people that are here with us live. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Scott and I are here every Tuesday night, live post-game content. Anthony and I are here just about every Friday night, live post-game content. And then Blake and I are here every Sunday night for live podcasts, just breaking it all down, topical type stuff. We've also got previews and daily videos coming at you every morning. So it's a great place to be subscribed. We greatly appreciate it. I know some people saying the numbers are different. That's because we're getting the whole number of Facebook, of Twitter, and of YouTube all at once. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Go do something fun to make yourself forget about what you just had to watch in this Dodgers game. But we appreciate you. That is Scott. I am Jeff. Enjoy your night and go Dodgers.